Awesome.
Over time, while riding, the vibrations from the trails, it could cause some bolts to work themselves out. What I like to do is I like to get something like this right here. This is a 3-way wrench. It's got your most basic sizes on there. So it's got a 4mm, a 5mm, and a 6mm hex wrench on there. And you can use that to check most of the bolts on your trike. The most common places where bolts come loose are going to be wherever something is mounted, such as a fender or a rack. So it's a good idea to check those. It's also a good idea to make sure that your quick release levers are tight. Make sure that your brake levers are not loose. Why is it important to clean your trike frame? Well, it helps maintain the original paint on the frame, but it's also a good way for you to examine the trike and make sure that nothing is loose or nothing looks like it's getting worn from something being out of alignment or something that may have happened during a ride. When I go to clean the frame, this is especially important if you're riding in really messy conditions, such as gravel or mud. I usually like to take a regular rag or a t-shirt, the one that you don't care about, to do the messy cleaning. And I take my degreaser, I spray some on there, and I wipe the frame. If your trike is especially dirty and you have a bunch of dry dirt on there, it might be a good idea to get a soft bristle brush and clean the frame off with a brush first. It's probably a good idea to do this outside so you don't make your area all messy. Once you get most of the dry dirt off, then what you do is you go in and you clean anything that looks like it needs to be cleaned. And then once you get the majority of the dirt off, I like to take a microfiber cloth and products such as Bike Lust and use that to do the final finish. Some things that you should look out for while cleaning your trike are any cracks in the frame, or if you see any unnatural grooves wearing into components, such as chain idlers. If you see something like this, it's a good idea to contact your local mechanic and set up an appointment for them to assess the damage. Something else that is good to check is spoke tension. It's a good idea for you to spin the wheel slowly and squeeze the spokes by pairs to make sure that you don't have a broken spoke or a loose spoke. If you give the wheel a good spin, the wheel should spin straight. If you notice a significant wobble, then that is something that needs to be addressed. So if you do find that your trike wheel has a broken spoke, a loose spoke, or if the wheel is severely out of true, so it's got a lateral wobble, then you'll want to contact your local mechanic. The other thing that you could do at home is check your chain. What I'm holding here, we just call it a chain checker. The whole idea of the chain checker is just to show you how worn out is your chain. Is it worn out enough where you need to get it replaced? What happens when a chain is getting worn is you see these little rollers right here. As you use your bike, the rollers get smaller and smaller in diameter. They are no longer going to fit very well on the sprockets in the chain ring. And as that happens, the chain is going to skip. Your shifting's not going to be as efficient, as crisp. And if you wait too long to replace your chain, then what's going to happen is it's going to accelerate the wear on the rest of your drivetrain. Replacing your chain is like getting the oil changed out of your car. It's a good thing to do every 1,000 miles or so when the chain gets worn out. For this specific tool, you just put the pin down here. Make sure it's at 0 when you do that. You want to push it until it stops, and then you read the number that it stopped at, which it's stopping at 0.5. If it's between 0 and 0.5, that means the chain is not worn. So for non-powered trikes, this is something that you're going to want to check once or twice a year. Unless you ride a lot, you might want to check it a little bit more. But for people who have trikes with motors on them, I recommend checking it more often, possibly once a month.
It's important to bring your trike into a trike repair shop around once a year or so, possibly more if you ride the trike a lot. There are certain things that you at home probably are not going to be equipped or willing to check and maintain. For example, the steering systems on tadpole recumbent trikes require proper alignment, which should be checked at least annually, if not more often. This is something that you probably don't have the tools or the knowledge to do. In addition, you want to make sure that your brakes are working smoothly and evenly, so that the left brake and the right brake are applying the same amount of stopping power. If that gets out of adjustment for you, again, that's something that most people are not going to be able to address themselves. In addition, if you have a trike with hydraulic disc brakes, which more and more are coming with these days, trust me, you do not want to deal with those yourself. You want to leave that in the hands of a shop. Hydraulic brakes are a very major challenge to work with if you don't know what you're doing. An overall assessment of the health of your trike, whether everything's working properly, running smoothly, the special parts of the drivetrain are working properly, but also if you are having any issues with comfort or the fit of your trike, that's when putting it in the hands of a professional who can work with you to make sure that everything is adjusted properly for your body, which may be changing over the years. So you may find that what worked last year for you doesn't work this year. So that's another reason to bring it in once a year to get it checked over.